Hey there. My name is Trevor, and today I'll be narrating the story of Oliver Price, a forensic detective who had an extraordinary revelation during his near-death experience. He brought back a shocking message for someone that left many people in shock and deeply emotional. Before we get started, make sure to leave a comment with your name and city for good luck. With that said, let's listen to Oliver's story. My name is Oliver Price, and I'm 70 years old. I had a deep near-death experience 3 years ago when I was 67 years old. My home is just outside of St. Augustine, Florida, a lively place that I have loved calling home for 8 years. This beautiful place has really won my heart. It's interesting that that's also where I got COVID-19, though I still don't know how that particular infection started. When March 2020 came around, I got really sick and had to go to the hospital. I was so badly sick that I had to be put on a respirator after only 24 hours. Too bad that a little more than a day later, I overloaded the machine and went into acute respiratory failure. This led to a quick helicopter move to a bigger hospital in Pensacola, where I had surgery and was put on an ECMO machine, a total heart-lung bypass machine, because I was in such bad shape. Even worse, my health kept getting worse. Soon after, I developed kidney failure and needed dialysis. My liver also got bigger, which caused blood clots to spread throughout my body. Basically, all of my major organs were hurt. At one point, the medical staff told my family that I had a 3% chance of living and told them to get ready for the fact that I was probably going to die. I went to the hospital on March 26, 2020, and amazingly came out on May 9, 2020. I was in the hospital for 6 weeks, and I was in a coma for 4 of those weeks. It was during this very unusual time that I had a number of deep near-death experiences. I can't remember the order of these events, but I do remember going through a dark cave. Moving through this bright hallway at a steady pace, I wasn't in a hurry. It was interesting that the light couldn't get inside the tube, but I could feel its bright glow from outside. At that very moment, I was completely at ease and at peace, even though I knew I had died. Okay, you know you're dead, but where are we going? I asked myself. I woke up all of a sudden in a beautiful building, standing in awe of how beautiful the room was. The room sparkled with gold and had 3 large arches on each side with gold inlays. Beautiful stained glass windows hung above these arches, and there were also beautiful chandeliers and peaceful water features hanging from the roof. From my spot on a mezzanine, I could see this amazing area below, which I can't even begin to describe. The colors and feelings I felt there were unlike anything I've ever felt on Earth. They made me feel so warm and loved. As I stood there, a man with olive skin walked up to me. His dark hair and beard framed a calm face. He was dressed in a long brown robe and moved like he was gliding instead of walking. I told them how beautiful the room was and asked, "What is this place?" He responded, "Oh, it's one of our favorite places and a lot of people come here. You don't belong here though, so you need to leave." He pointed to a beautiful set of wood doors that had been carved by hand. I walked through those doors with the help of a presence I couldn't place. I felt like I was being gently led. I was amazed to find myself in a golden city as we went down a set of stairs. The buildings rose high into the sky and were a brilliant gold color. The windows were cloudy, and the streets, which didn't have any cars or buses on them, were made of a material that was so clear it sparkled in the light. As I walked around this city, I was amazed at how well the parks were kept up. The grass was so green that it was better than any I had seen in the Highlands of Scotland or Ireland. I could see kids having fun in the park off in the distance. The sound of their laughing filled the air as I continued my walk through this beautiful place. All of a sudden, I realized I was lost and scared because I couldn't find my way back. I felt a rush of panic, and I fell to the curb by the street, crying and stressed out. I was surrounded by the chill of the unknown, and even though I could feel people moving around, I felt completely alone. I screamed for help, and my voice rang out in the silence. After a while, I caught a glimpse of a beautiful white stairs going up into the clouds that went on forever. I felt a spark of hope. If I could just get to that staircase, someone might come help me. I got up the nerve to crawl toward it, but I had no idea how high I was going. I heard a voice say my name. "There he is! Oliver is there! Get him!" I felt like someone grabbed me by the collar and pulled me away from the stairs. Everything around me went black in an instant. and I was thrown back into my dim, drowsy world where everything felt closed off and still. The spark of my awareness came back to life, and I found myself walking along a pretty dirt path. Along this road were bright flowers and tall, majestic trees. In the distance, lush meadows went on forever, with a gentle stream winding through them. I took in the beauty around me while being aware that I was dead. I told myself in my head, "You're dead, but what comes next?" A lively little boy popped out of nowhere in front of me. He didn't have a shirt on and wore shorts that were 3/4 of the way down his leg. His long, dark hair was cut into a bowl cut. His olive skin shone with health as he waved his arms wildly, calling me to follow him. He yelled, "Come on, follow me!" His energy was contagious and appealing. He led me down the road even further, which led us to another beautiful room. This one had big picture windows and plush leather seats that made the room look nice. I told the boy to wait there, and he promised to come back soon. I went to a window and looked out at the river that ran under the building. It was the same river I had seen in the field. In the water, I saw figures of people having fun and enjoying the day along the sides of the river. The two of them looked like they were having a good time and enjoying the beautiful scenery. Beautiful flowers in bright shades of red, green, orange, and blue covered the area, making for a stunning sight. It was so peaceful that time stopped making sense to me as I sat there. The little boy finally came back, but his face showed that he was sorry. He told her, "I'm sorry, you have to leave." "But I don't want to go," I begged. "I feel so peaceful and loved here." "I'm sorry, but your room isn't ready yet," he said softly. "You need to leave." That was it. I was thrown back into my dark, sleepy world. The way I felt is really hard to describe. I had always had a terrible fear of dying. Just thinking about it would often send me into a panic attack. As a criminal murder detective for 30 years, I looked into the worst parts of people's lives, but talking about my own death would make me feel very anxious. At that moment, I was fully aware that I had died, but I felt surrounded by such calm and peace. At another point in time, my awareness started to come back to me. This time, when I came out of the tunnel, I saw a huge empty space. It wasn't totally black, but a deep gray color like late evening, and forms and shadows were moving in and out of focus. Light orbs danced around me, and one of them came closer and talked to me mentally. In my gut, I knew I had to follow it, and it took me further into the void. As we went further, it became like being in front of a dark stage in a theater. Suddenly, a small light turned on in the corner and got brighter until it showed an actor or actress standing there and lighting up the room. All of a sudden, my late mother-in-law showed up, coming out like that little light I'd seen before. Little by little, it got brighter until I could see her sitting there. I knew who she was right away and yelled, "Evelyn? Hi, Evelyn, it's Oliver. I'm here." With her right arm on the chair arm and her left arm on some kind of bar, she sat like a queen, tall and proud. A beautiful white gown and a white sash around her waist made her look even more beautiful. Her hair was dressed in a beautiful bun, and a pretty white ribbon wrapped around her head. She gave me a quick look, but even though I called her name, she looked away as if she didn't want to recognize my presence. More into the darkness was what my guide told me to do. As we went deeper into this world, I felt something amazing. I could sense and understand everything around me in a full 360-degree. I saw that my mother-in-law's light behind me was slowly going out until it was totally gone. Suddenly, a young man who looked like a teenager ran past us. It was my late brother-in-law. I knew who he was right away. I saw a light off in the distance as we kept moving through the void. I saw my mom, dad, and sister Lila standing there at that very moment. "Mom, Dad, Lila!" I yelled with joy. "It's Oliver here! I'm here!" Even though I could tell they were aware, they stood far away and seemed to look away. It felt like they didn't want me to get closer. There was a physical barrier that stopped me from going any further. I moved in harmony with them as we crossed the void. My kids told me that I had met the veil, which is the limit of death. They thought my family didn't want me to cross over because I wasn't religiously strong. I was born Lutheran but became a Catholic so that my kids could go to Catholic school. My wife, on the other hand, has always been a devout Catholic. As for me, I was more of a cynic who wasn't sure if there was a spiritual world. As I stood there, I saw that a light was going out, which made me look at a ball of light that was moving quickly toward me. It stopped quickly in front of me, and the word veteran kept going through my mind. Veteran, veteran, veteran. The orb's face appeared for a split second and sent a message. Tell Harper at the salon that her grandfather is okay. Then it floated over to a white porch where it was joined by another light figure. They began making American flags and red, white, and blue bands together. Soon after, my guide pushed me and told me, "You have to leave. You have to go back." And then it went black. I was back in my body. When I woke up from my sleep, I told my daughter about all of these things. After getting out of the hospital, it was hard to learn how to walk again. I had to use a wheelchair for a while, and it took me 8 to 12 weeks to get a haircut. I looked really bad. Because COVID-19 changed everything, I didn't know what was going on with barbershops. While I was away from the world for 6 weeks, my wife and kids told me about all the changes and shutdowns that happened. I found a business card for a nearby hairdresser while digging through a dresser behind me. It was somewhere I had been a few times, but not often. I showed it to my wife and asked her to call to see if they were open and how they were handling haircuts during the pandemic. I was excited about it. When I went back to my room a few minutes later, my nurse daughter, who had moved back in to take care of me, came in with a bunch of questions. I told her where I got the card, how long I had it, and a lot of other things. I kept saying that I didn't know. I found it by accident while going through my clothes. "Dad, I think we found your Harper," she told him. It made sense to me, so I asked, "What are you talking about?" When she gave me the card, the name Harper Bennett was written very clearly on it. It was something I had never seen before. I asked her right away to make an appointment for me. My daughter was in charge, and my wife offered that she go with me instead because she couldn't handle the stress of the trip. My daughter took me to the barber shop with her. They let me in while the others waited outside because I was using a walker. I sat down in a chair and was glad that I could finally get a haircut. A little girl came up to me after a while and said, "Hi, my name is Harper." "Hi, are you Oliver?" When I said yes, she said, "Okay, you're my next customer." I asked Harper, "May I ask you some personal questions?" as she cut my hair as we walked to the back alley. She agreed right away. I asked her if both of her grandfathers were still alive. "No," she said. "I lost the person I cared about most not long ago. He had died in June 2019, so this was in May 2020. "Was he a veteran?" I asked. Her answer was sure. Yes, he was in the Army, and he often talked about going to Vietnam. I was interested, so I asked him if he had lived in the area. She said, "No. Everyone in my family is from Iowa." I told them that Iowa was about 1,900 miles away and said, "I've never been to Iowa." Then I asked, "Has he ever been to this area?" I wanted to find a link and was wondering if I might have met him somewhere. However, she told me, no, he never got the chance to visit before he died. I was sure I was looking at the right girl, so I told Harper, "I think your grandfather came to me. He wants to talk to you." "Tell Harper at the salon that her grandfather is okay," he said again. After a brief moment of calm, we all broke down crying. I could tell that other people in the barbershop were watching us and possibly thinking, "Don't go see that girl. She'll make you cry." When everything was calm, I asked Harper, "Your grandfather moved to a white porch. Does that mean anything to you?" Her eyes got bright. She said, "That would have been his house in Iowa. He loves to sit on his white porch and talk to people who walk by." I then said, "He was making American flags and ribbons out of red, white, and blue fabric. Is that important?" It shocked her, and she took a step back, almost in shock. She calmed down after a moment and said, "He was a member of the American Legion in Iowa. My whole family would go to the American Legion every Soldier's Day and make flags and ribbons in red, white, and blue for the graves of soldiers." It was a huge confirmation for me. I knew nothing about Finn, his family, or their customs before. Still, he not only showed me the way to Harper with the card, but he also told me things that only they would know. There's no doubt that God wants us to love each other, and that's what I came back with. The changes I've gone through are so big that even my family and friends have told me how much I've changed. I'm much more open and caring now than I was before. I used to be a type A person who worked in crime investigations and has a master's degree in forensic science. Now I feel much calmer and more relaxed. Yes, I'm more open-minded and, dare I say it, more loving. I was skeptical at first, which is why I say that a covert change saved my life. Like a lot of other people, I used to question whether there was an afterlife, and my fear of death would give me panic attacks. I thought that my life was like turning off a light switch. As soon as I did, everything went dark. That being said, my view has changed a lot. I now believe that there is something beyond this life. I caught a glimpse of it. And God, in whatever form that means to you, let me see and feel this very real thing. As a seasoned detective, I've always looked for solid proof to back up my claims in court. That is exactly what God gave me because He knew that was the key to making me believe in Him.